Blah freaking blah. What's going on, guys? It's Eric, blah freaking blah. This podcast is currently being brought to you by whoever the nice people were that was in the ad before this video started. Thank you for watching and not skipping the ad. You didn't skip the ad, right? Come on. An ad a day keeps the day job away. I'm just kidding, Google. That was a satirical comment. It was meant for parody. I would never ever suggest that anybody actually click or watch an ad as is in agreement with the terms and conditions to not do that. It really is true. You can't do that. How you guys doing? Good to see you again, so to speak. Missed you. I want to thank everybody for all the wonderful comments the past few days. Some of the stuff you guys have to say in the comments are always awesome. I haven't had as much of an opportunity to comment back, which has sucked, but is the nature of the beast with the day job. So what are we going to get into today? Today we got a few hot items. There's so much to talk about every week. It's picking and choosing is so tough. I really wish that I could do this 2, 3, 4 times a week. I think it'd be great just to be able to cover more of this stuff more regularly. But time being what it is, you know. Today we've got, we're going to talk about new Terminator, new Judge Dredd, new news from DC and how it's still owning Marvel. But first I want to get into this Disney pulling out of Netflix. Now, in case you don't know, Disney has decided they're going to pull their entire slate from Netflix. And the reason why they're doing this is because they want to set up their own streaming service. Now, this is going to happen. I mean, we've been seeing this. We've been seeing companies try to branch off into their own streaming services for a few years now. But Disney's a big dog. Disney's one of the big companies, you know, really, really big companies. And I think that if anybody's going to have any success doing it, Disney has a good shot. So what does this mean for Netflix? Well, almost immediately the same day, Netflix's stock dropped by about 4%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about the billions and billions with a B dollars, it was a lot. Now, will it come back? Oh, sure. You know, they'll be fine. But was having a Twitter conversation. In case you guys ever wanted to join me on Twitter, the handle is @Eric_talks. Link should be in the description box below if you want to check that out. Also, you can join me on Facebook at facebook.com/GM blah freaking blah. Thank you for joining me there. I posted this about the Netflix, the Disney news, and I went, uh-oh. And then, like, just a couple hours later, Netflix stock falls. And I was like, that's why I said uh-oh. And from that, got into a conversation where I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this handle, but Decublock suggested that maybe this is why Netflix bought Millerverse. It was a buffer move. And we talked about that for, commented back and forth. And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I think that observation is spot on. I think that's why they bought Millerverse. Because the question is in the air, well, what's going to happen with the Disney shows, with the Marvel shows? And I mean, the answer to that's really easy. They're not going to be on there. Now, the existing seasons, they'll be on there. I'm sure that deal was probably perpetual unless Disney buys them out or the current contract has an expiration date. But you can expect that the current Disney shows that will be airing on Netflix will still be there, the Netflix shows. But the future seasons for Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Defenders, Iron Fist, all of those, any future seasons I seriously doubt will be on Netflix. You will have to go to Disney for that. And I'm okay with that. I mean, they're trying to bring it all in-house, and that's what Disney does. This coming via thehollywoodreporter.com. Disney to pull movies from Netflix launch streaming service. And Disney's announcements coincided with a mixed quarterly earnings report, which sunk its stock 4% in after-hours trading. Disney on Tuesday said it will be pulling its movies from Netflix and will launch a Disney streaming service of its own in 2019. It also said it will launch an ESPN streaming service early next year. For those of you who care, I do not. To help do all of that, Disney will acquire a majority of BAM Tech, the streaming technology company owned by MLBAM. Mulbam. I would just call them Mulbam if I have to read that again. The internet company owned by Major League Baseball. Fascinating. Disney already owned a stake in BAMTech, but will pay $1.58 billion for an additional 42%. And here I thought they were going to use Amazon's service like everyone else, Netflix included. Details of the Disney streaming service were sketchy Tuesday, with CEO Bob Iger saying that if a movie is Pixar or Disney branded, it will probably appear exclusively on the new service, including shows and movies made specifically for the service, but the jury is still out on Marvel and Star Wars films. And that, my friends, will probably depend on how much Netflix is willing to shell out for the rights to those. They go on about how ESPN's been bleeding subscribers forever, but the agreement with Netflix, it says canceling that out, caught investors off guard, and Netflix shares quickly sunk 4% on the news and after hours trading. Now, that was a knee-jerk reaction. That will go back to normal. But that always happens. Major changes, people just panicking. Sell! Crap, I shouldn't have sold all that. I'll get to Netflix in a second. Deciphering Iger's vague comments Tuesday, it could mean that the upcoming Frozen 2 would be available for streaming exclusively on Disney's new service, while Star Wars Episode 9 presumably would not, though they are both set for release in 2019. Star Wars and Marvel movies in the future could be on the Disney service exclusively, could not be there at all, or could be there as well as on other services. Those decisions are yet to be made, but the decision to not renew with Netflix is a done deal. Disney also owns a stake in Hulu, and Disney executives said Tuesday a multi-year deal putting Mulan, Pocahontas, and others on Hulu will not be affected by Disney's upcoming service. Obviously, they've got a stake in it. And those movies are basically catalog titles at this point anyway. Another thing to think about, this move, in regards to Netflix's future, it's indicative of the troubles that Netflix could face on the tail of finding out that Netflix is $20 billion. That's billion with a B again. $20 billion in debt. And no one seems worried about this. And no one seems to remember that it wasn't Netflix that killed Blockbuster. It was Blockbuster being billions of dollars in debt, because they were buying up all their competitors. They were spending money hand over fist because they just acted like they assumed the money was just going to keep coming. And to me, I see Netflix making the same mistake. I mean, being $20 billion in debt. That's on top of the money that they are spending. I mean, they're looking at the federal government spending plan and saying, yeah, that's a good plan. Let's do that. And so that's why I'm concerned for the future of Netflix, because what Disney is doing, they're all going to do. Eventually, they're all going to do it. In order for Netflix to keep this up, they're going to have to start signing exclusive deals with studios. And you think they're spending money hand over fist now? I mean, when I say this, I mean, I think this is me talking off the top of my head here, but I think it would require them to license these things perpetually, like forever, and paying that kind of money. I don't know if they can sustain that. So hopefully these guys can bank this well. In case you didn't know, Netflix bought Miller World. That's Mark, or is it Millar World? I've heard his name pronounced Mark Miller and Mark Millar. Now, he is the creator of Kick-Ass and Kingsman, among other things, and they bought his entire company. So I guess that's a good windfall for him. So, hats off to Mark Miller. Wish them the best. So we don't know yet if they're going to turn his... I'm assuming, this is just my gut feeling right now, I'm assuming we will see TV shows in the same vein as Marvel shows from Mark Miller's universe, to kind of again, buffer the loss of the Marvel shows. And you'll probably see some films too. Now, Kick-Ass and Kingsman, as of right now, they won't be in that, because those rights have been sold off already. They're in the hands of other people. But anything else, He did something else, and I can't think of what it is. It's bothering me. It's escaping me. Yeah, I'm sure you guys will comment and be like, oh, yeah, he did this, and yeah, that's right. So, yes, please do. Let me know what I'm forgetting. But, yeah, there's the news, man. Disney is pulling out of Netflix, and Netflix, if they don't get a hold of that spending, they might be in trouble. So, hopefully they stop doing it like the federal government and start doing it like smart business people. I will continue to subscribe to Netflix, and if I were smart, I'd have an affiliate link down below, which I do not, but maybe in the future, for any of you who either haven't had Netflix or have canceled out and want to go back. I didn't mean to keep talking about ad revenue and all that. It's just one of those things. So what are we going to get to next? Which one do we do? Flip a coin. Ting. Let's go with DC. DC creators will have ownership or equity positions in dark matter books. Did y'all know this? Because I think this is excellent. DC, yet again, is just laying the groundwork for how a comic company should be run. Giving the creatives a stake in the characters they're creating. It's amazing. It's amazing. Think of that. So this, according to bleedingcool.com, it looks like DC's creators will have a little extra incentive to make sure people want to read their dark matter books. Yeah. And what an incentive it is. I think that a lot of people underestimate, I don't know why, but they underestimate the importance of giving people a financial incentive. Like giving them a stake in it, part ownership. Because you're going to put more of yourself into it. You're going to like do as much as you can to make sure it succeeds. You know, like if you're a commissioned salesperson versus an hourly salesperson. Well, you know what? The better you do for them, the better you do for you. It's common sense. And I always think that any creator needs to have a stake in what they have created, what they bring to the table. I've never cared for that business model where businesses say, hey, you worked for us and we were paying you. Your idea becomes our property. It's BS. And I've seen that across the board. It's just a corporate thing. Be it from comic companies, music companies, breweries. I've worked at breweries before. And, any beer you develop while you're there belongs to that company. You can't take it with you. So DC co-publishers Dan Didio and Jim Lee bravely spoke with comic industry website and Insomnia Cure ICV2. This is, of course, being bleeding cool. They've got to take a stab at competition. Despite witnessing what happened when Marvel's top executives did that earlier this year. Well, I don't believe that's ICV2's fault. I believe that might be Marvel's fault. But I digress. Bleeding cool with their snark. I'm still reading your article. Continuing. In the course of the conversation, Didio dropped some interesting details about Dark Matter, the line of books featuring new characters by superstar artists hitting stores in the aftermath of Dark Knight's Metal. Dark Matter is a huge influx in new characters into the DCU. What we did is we brought top talent on board. We have Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, John Romita Jr., and a lot of key creators are coming on board to help really elevate and draw attention to these new characters, because it's so hard to get recognized in a crowded marketplace. Thank you for that, Marvel. So you really need the talent to help draw that attention. Yes. Yes, you do. Unless you're Marvel, because they don't really move the needle. All these talents are participating in the books, whether that's creator-owned or taking equity positions. They have vested value in participating in helping creating this. If these books win, we all win, which is, I think, the fairest way to approach anything. It's an exciting moment for us because I feel honestly, since I've been at DC, and you can look back almost to the start of Image, this is probably the largest creation of new ideas, new books on the superhero level coming from a major company. And reader's note, I want to be there for this. I am genuinely excited to see what these guys are going to come up with. So, Bleeding Cool goes on to say, first of all, who are you and what have you done with the real Dan Didio? This sounds like a really smart move, but never mind that. Creator ownership, equity positions, that's a sweet deal. Then again, it's worth pointing out that Ellen Moore probably thought the same thing when he signed the contract for Watchmen. So Rich adds a note, which I'm not going to bother reading because I think it's whatever. But I think that I'm just no pun intended. I am marveling at how well DC is playing the game now. And I just, if you want to have a successful company, do what DC is doing and do the opposite of what Marvel is doing. Period. Respecting artists? What? They make a difference? What? And I'm not going to sit here and say that DC can do no wrong because clearly DC can do wrong. Anybody can do wrong. Nobody's perfect. We're all infallible. And no, I mean, excuse me. We're all fallible, not infallible. We yeah, I don't want to put DC on such a high pedestal, but I mean they are really, really they're going to take the crown. No, they don't. See that video where I said DC was going to take the crown from Marvel. Quite possibly, I was speaking in terms of market share and sales numbers. So officially, they've had the crown on their head for limited amounts of time, but they have not taken it from Marvel yet. They need to take that crown and hold on to it and be ahead of the game. And you know, we'll see. They're getting real close. So another hand clap for DC. I'm really impressed. And I did actually get to buy some comic books. I don't have any of them in front of me, but I did actually go buy some comic books. I actually bought Superman number 26 or 27. I think it was 26. The one where they're just doing a lot of talking. I appreciated that issue. That was I saw that Captain Cummings actually watched one of his videos. I watched a few of them now, a couple of reviews, and yeah, he talked swimmingly about it. He flipped through the pages, and I was like, you know what? I agree with him. I like what they're doing there. And I went and bought a copy, and then apparently the next issue they're doing more talking, and I wanted to get it, and Superman's walking around in a goddamn Hamilton t-shirt. Yeah, you just had to throw that in there, didn't you? You just had to throw that in there. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just annoying. But, it is what it is. Subtle things are subtle things, whatever. Still might go get that issue because, the writing seems solid, and they're trying to talk about, history in America and whatnot, and it's respectful, so... Yeah. Good on you, DC. Keep paying the artists. Keep drawing that top talent. Let's see if Marvel can survive. Anybody want to take bets? Taking bets. Is Marvel going to survive? Maybe. By the way, did you guys catch the if Marvel Comics on Twitter were a rock band? If you didn't, that's the reason why this podcast is late. That video was supposed to take like 15 minutes and ended up taking hours to finish. It was ridiculous how long it took. So I'm not going to do very many of those. I'm just, I feel like I did okay on that video. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. Let me know what you think. I said what Marvel thinks they sound like and then what Marvel actually sounds like on Twitter. Check it out. But yeah, I'm not going to do very many of those. But with that said, I do have one that I'm going to be working on throughout the rest of this week. And I hope you appreciate it. It's something that hit me, and it's a kind of a prophetic metaphor, for a movie trailer that recently came out. And it is, well, I don't want to spoil it. But look for that over the next few days. I'll try to put it up. I'll try to have it up at least by the weekend. But given the amount of time it took me to do a 45-second long video, who knows? Because this one's going to be edited together and have narration and all that good jazz. So God help me. Editing person, handle this. Oh, I don't have an editing person. Crap. I need to make more money. Remember, an ad click a day keeps the day job away. Just kidding, Google. That was a parody comment. It was for funniness. It was for funniness. Please don't strike me. I know it's in the terms and conditions. Please don't. All right. What are we gonna get to next? Let's talk about Judge Dredd. You know why? In case you didn't know, Judge Dredd, there is a TV series being developed. Who knows where that's gonna land? Quite possibly. Could it land at Netflix? Maybe. I kind of hope so. They do really well. I like the shows dropping and being binge worthy and being able to flow through it as quickly or as slowly as you want. I tend to not blow through shows. I don't have the time. And when shows come out that I'm really, really sucked into, I am lucky now to get an episode a night. It took me weeks to watch Daredevil Season 2, and that was just torturous. But the news about Judge Dredd, not only that there is a show coming, it's called Judge Dredd Mega City 1, but it's that Karl Urban is in talks to play him again. Dun, dun, dun. Karl Urban in talks to star in Judge Dredd TV series. This is from comicbook.com. Karl Urban may don the iconic helmet of Judge Dredd once again. The actor revealed at the Star Trek... Of course it was at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention. Nothing wrong with that. He was Bones. And, I did watch Star Trek 3, by the way. I finally watched that. And I didn't do a review on it because, frankly, my movie reviews just don't get that much attention. I don't know if you guys want to keep seeing those or not. So I'll keep talking about movies, clearly. I'll keep talking about movies. But just as a short note on this, not a proper review, Star Trek Beyond was okay. It's worth a watch. The virtue signaling with making, Sulu gay wasn't the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. It was annoying. I mean, even George Takei was annoyed by that. It wasn't the right move. It was just a big fat virtue signal. And while Captain Kirk was standing there smiling approvingly, it was annoying. And overall, but the film itself was fine. I mean, the weird thing about it is Simon Pegg wrote the screenplay, and he's a big Star Trek fan. And he said it would be more Trekky than the previous two installments, and it was. And that wasn't a detriment. But something about the movie, it just felt like filler. I mean, it was good, and it's worth seeing at least once, I figure, especially if you like the first two. But I can't really explain that. It was kind of like Star Trek, 5 or Star Trek 3. It really was. I mean, I'm not sure if Star Trek is going to go back to the even numbers are good and the odd numbers are less good. It just was okay. The ad campaigns for that film was god awful. I mean, it was just so bad. With the Beastie Boys soundtrack and the quick editing, I mean, they tried to market it like it was a Justin Lin film and not like it was a Star Trek film. And that was a huge mistake, and it really showed in the numbers for this movie. There was a negative press about Sulu and George Takei and all that, and I'm sure that didn't help it either. But, like I said, overall, I mean, Idris Elba was the bad guy, and I could not tell the entire film. I had no idea that was him. I was like, oh, well, that was cool. I like him just fine. He's awesome. The thing about it was, aside from the spinning camera move, which Justin Lin did way too frickin' much, it was like, okay, Hitchcock, back up a little bit. Just calm down. You get to make that move once in a movie, not 8 or 9 times. I mean, it was some of the stuff. I mean, I don't get sick watching movies, and it was throwing me off. It was just too much. But if you haven't seen it, I streamed it on Hulu. Again, affiliate link should be in the description box below. It is not. But if you have Hulu, it's there for you to stream if you want to check it out. Like I said, it's worth watching. I enjoyed it. Did not think it was bad at all. But the numbers were so disappointing on it that it's a very good chance that might be the last time we see that crew in a Star Trek film. So, sorry, back to the news. That was a big So the actor is at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention talking. Somebody asked him about it. He says, I'm in discussions with them about that, Urban revealed. I told them if they write the material and give Dredd something to do and give him a function, I will be there. I would love to. Well, that's not a very high bar. Surely they're going to do that anyway. They could always bring back Stallone. By the way, what do you guys think about Stallone's Dredd? It was plenty wrong, and it was definitely a 90s film, but, God, it's a, I don't have guilty pleasures, because I'm not guilty about the things I take pleasure in, but if I had guilty pleasures, that would be on the list I have of guilty pleasures. I just love a schlocky, huge, schlocky, big budget B film. I miss those. I wish there were more of them. Has any come out recently? Have there been any big budget, just really... See, I never watched Jupiter Ascending. I heard like that was the bad. But yeah, let me know if you can think of anything that I haven't seen in recent years, because it's something that fell by the wayside. Of course, studios don't like losing tens of millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, so I can understand why they don't happen as often, but God, I sure do miss it. So, oh God, I'm rabbit trailing. Back to Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd Mega City 1 producer Brian Jenkins previously said that they'd be interested in seeing Urban return if they could work it out amidst his busy schedule. We have had many conversations prior to this about all sorts of things, Jenkins said. He's also very busy, a full-time professional actor. So we're going to have some long and complicated conversations, I would imagine, and we'll see where we go. It's too early to tell yet, but if we can use him and he's available to us, then I think that would be absolutely brilliant. There's always a possibility he will be busy, or that his schedule for other movies won't allow. Basically, we don't know at this stage. To me, there's a lot of truth in that. Schedules do play a part in it. I mean, these guys are booked years in advance, because of the scope of films. All these guys have to be signed and contracted and done. So when all the pre-production is done and it's time to start shooting, that they're there on the set and ready to go. However, there's a lot of that paragraph of quotes that sound like, because you go back to Karl Urban, he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, if they give me something to do, that'd be great. Because this isn't the first TV show he's done. He did the Almost Human TV show, which sadly got canceled after 1/2 season. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think this is salary negotiations. They're trying to come up with an agreement for money. So it goes into, do you know that Judge Dredd's been running in the 2080 British Comic Book Anthology magazine for 40 years? Wow. It amazes me that this thing has been around for 40 years, and it's only had 2 films. So Urban previously starred in the film Dredd, just Dredd, which released in 2012 to a largely positive critical reception, but performed poorly at the box office. It was around $20 million. From what I can recall, on a $40 to $50 million budget, it wasn't very good. It wasn't a very good return. The film went on to greater success in the home media market and has obtained cult classic status with many fans. Sylvester Stallone previously starred as the character in the much more poorly received 1995 movie Judge Dredd, which, just so you know, I saw in the theater. I did. Rob Schneider and all. I wonder why Rob Schneider was in 2 90s Sylvester Stallone sci-fi action movies. So tell me what you guys think about this. Are y'all excited about this, or did you want to see a clean reboot of Dredd? I obviously the deal's not done. This may not work out. Karl Urban may want too much money. He may get too busy. Who knows? Nothing is guaranteed. Take nothing for granted. But would you like to see this? I personally thought that the Judge Dredd movie was a smidge too bloody. It was just a smidge too gleefully bloody, and a lot of people said that that was the tone of the book, and I have not read many Judge Dredd books, or 2000 AD, or what have you, but the ones that I have read, I don't remember seeing that level of gore. Maybe you guys have. Let me know if there's any Judge Dredd fans amongst y'all. Let me know in the comments what you think of Dredd, if you're excited about this show, if you want Karl. I would love to see Karl Urban do it again. I'll probably watch it either way. Not as much as I would like to see Ron Perlman be Hellboy again, but it's still pretty cool. And do you know, I watched that Thor trailer like 5 times before I realized that was Karl Urban in that. Boy's beefed up a little bit. I'm very ashamed of that, but I'm just confessing to you guys, just for me to you. A confessional, I didn't realize that was him, and I felt very ashamed of myself. God! I'm on comicbook.com staring at the Marvel Generations ad. You know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click the ad. Haha. Now the money goes from Marvel to comicbook.com. Comicbook.com, you're welcome. Thank you for your service. All right, Xing out of Marvel. Moving on. We're going to joeblow.com. We're going to talk about the Terminator. A little bit of history with me and the Terminator. Okay, a lot of you guys, you're my age, maybe a little younger, in your 20s. I don't know where you are, but you're adults. And so when you grew up, what was your movie? What was your jam? Like, what was the biggest influence on you film-wise when you were a kid? A lot of people say Star Wars. A lot of people say Star Trek. A lot of you may say The Matrix, etc., 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 Jurassic Park. For me, it was The Terminator. The Terminator blew my mind. And, fun fact, I found my favorite film by reading the comic book first. From Now Comics. Terminator #1 I found at a grocery store. You see this theme? We've been talking about this for a while, but this is my testimony. Is it testifies to what we've been talking about. I found a licensed comic book on a newsstand in a little Rudy Poot grocery store, and it turned me onto the film. The film blew my mind. So this coming from Joe Blow, Schwarzenegger will be back in Terminator 6. Shooting begins next May. Boy, that is fast. That is really fast. Side note question, just in the comments, if you guys feel like talking a lot, were there any movies that you discovered because of the comics? I think a lot of people tend to think that the licensed comics get discovered because of the films, but I have found that Terminator and Aliens both, I watched the movies because of the books. Believe it or not, both of them obviously being James Cameron films, oddly, and James Cameron's pretty much my favorite filmmaker for the most part, especially growing up. Terminator 2 blew my mind. I can't wait for that to come out August 25th, and I'm going to see it in 3D, and I'm going to do it gleefully. So let's play catch up for just a second. For where the Terminator is at now is due to U.S. copyright law, James Cameron, which I'm very excited about this, James Cameron is, the rights to the Terminator are reverting back to him in 2019. He's getting them back. However, the rest of the world still belongs to David Ellison. He bought the worldwide rights to the Terminator, and he can't control the copyright. So, but without America, he's dead in the water. So he and James Cameron have been talking, and this also from Joe Blow. This is James Cameron aims to reinvent the Terminator franchise with a trilogy. Earlier this year, we heard that James Cameron was planning to get back into the Terminator game when some of the franchise rights revert to him in 2019. The copyright of, I don't know why that's hard. Some of the franchise rights. Producing a new installment with David Ellison of Skydance Media. That he is the one who bought the rights worldwide a couple years ago and put out the widely criticized and overly criticized Terminator Genisys. I say overly criticized because the movie was well done and respectful, if not tremendously misguided in the story. But it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. And getting someone else, possibly Deadpool's Tim Miller, to direct the film. Speaking with News.com of Australia, Cameron confirmed most of that report with no mention of Miller, and revealed that his plans for the franchise are even bigger than just one film. Cameron only wrote and directed the first two Terminators. Only? He directed the first two Terminator films, and wasn't involved with the sequels that followed, but now he intends to add 3 more Terminators to his resume as a producer. This dude does not know how to make a single film anymore. He does not. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but he just thinks big. Admitting that he doesn't have a lot of respect for the films that followed his Terminators, and he's in line with most people, Cameron asks, has the franchise run its course, or can it be freshened up? Can it still have relevance now where so much of our world is catching up to what was science fiction in the first 2 films? We live in a world of predator drones and surveillance and big data and emergent AI. So I am in discussions with David Ellison, who is the current rights holder globally for the Terminator franchise, and the rights in the U.S. market revert to me under U.S. copyright law in a year and a half, so he and I are talking about what we can do. Right now, we are leaning toward doing a 3-film arc and reinventing it. Ooh, that's exciting. If anybody can reinvent the Terminator, it's the guy that came up with the Terminator. Cameron notes that this project isn't at a point where it can be officially announced because there are still some issues to work through or hurdles to clear before the deal is closed. So that's where we were as of July 24th. So a mere, 3 weeks later? Schwarzenegger will be back in Terminator 6. Shooting begins next May. Now, I think it's funny how they're calling it Terminator 6. So it's like, anyway, let me read the article here before I speculate anything. It was only a week ago we shared with you guys the awesome news that mega director James Cameron was getting the rights back to the Terminator franchise and is looking to make an all-new trilogy. They apparently don't look at their dates very closely. If that news wasn't cool enough, today we have word via the ex-governor himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, that not only will he be returning to his role as the Terminator in Cameron's new film as producer, Cameron is the producer, but that the new entry in the series will begin shooting next May. I mean, that is a huge, huge deal. That happened so fast. I mean, Ellison clearly is wanting to capitalize on this major investment that he has made because he lost his ass on Terminator Genesis. I mean, they're lucky if they've broken even by now. So that's not surprising, but it is surprising because even for me, it's just really fast. So in March next year, I am shooting Terminator 6. James Cameron and David Ellison are back on board, and then comes a Conan. Yep, you read that right. Arnold also just confirmed that he will be returning as Conan as well. Too much cool info. Too much cool info for one short-ass sentence there, Schwarzenegger. Anyhow, I know what you're thinking. We've heard all this before. Sure, I get you. But it seems to be the Terminator 6 now news is legit as legit gets, and call me an eternal optimist, but I think that Arnold will return for King Conan. This is Joe Blow talking here. So we have Conan news and Terminator news. Now, calling it Terminator 6, that gives me pause. I don't know if they're doing that officially, to keep people from being confused, but they're not calling it a reboot, so clearly it's a sequel. Schwarzenegger's coming back. He's still the Terminator. Will it have to be motion capture? Who knows? Will it actually, I don't know, acknowledge that Terminator Genesis exists? I don't know. It's curious, but the thing is, I trust Cameron. Cameron is smart. Cameron is a fantastic filmmaker. Cameron has written and directed, I might add, the two highest grossing films of all time. That would be Titanic and Avatar, in case you didn't know. Flip-flop that to get the correct order. As well as the first two Terminator films, as well as Aliens, as well as The Abyss. I mean, the dude has done some great work. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and I'm really excited about this. So, I don't know how I feel about Tim Miller. Tim Miller is very capable. He was really sharp on the first Deadpool. But, you know what? He would do a good job. Do I think there's better out there? Sure. Probably. But he would be a good pick. So me being a huge Terminator fan, and this being my favorite movie of all time growing up, the first two films, I'm very excited about this. Seeing Cameron return to the franchise is great. I totally look forward to it. Post your comments down below, guys. What do you think about this? Are you excited? Do you care less? Do you think that it's done? Or was it done until Cameron got involved? And then we have Cameron making Avatar, 2 through 800 currently. And I don't think he's ever going to stop. But now he's got two franchises boiling over. And I don't know. I trust him. He's always proven himself to be a stickler for, kind of a perfectionist, and I think that he'll do great. What do you guys think? Post your comments down below. I appreciate you as always. This is going to wrap it up for the day, guys. This is going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your suggestions. Do you have anything you want me to talk about in future videos? Did I miss anything? Your thoughts are always welcome. They are appreciated. Whether or not you agree with me, I do read all your comments. Whether or not I can ever acknowledge that sometimes, aside. But I will comment when I can. I do read them all. I do take them into consideration. And some of your thoughts are way better than my thoughts. And articulated in a much finer fashion. But thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit. And if you're new here, I appreciate you listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. And hit the notification bell when you subscribe to make sure that you are notified of future videos. Let me know if you want to see me on VidMe, because VidMe, maybe I can do some special videos. Some of those 85,000 hour, 45-second long videos. I can do more of those over there. I don't know. What do you guys think? If you're open for this? And I am working on getting this podcast officially on iTunes. I figure I've put this off long enough. I imagine that the podcast will be available on iTunes, and I will let you know as soon as that drops. In the meantime, you can join me on Twitter at Eric Talks, Eric_Talks, and on Facebook, facebook.com/GM blah freaking blah. And are there any other places that you guys would like to see blah freaking blah have a presence? If you guys want to chat, I love chatting with you right here in the comments section. But let me know if there's somewhere else that you would like to see me have more of a presence. But anyway, guys, that's it for the day. Like I said, thank you. You're awesome. I appreciate you. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all these things, and I will see you guys on the next one.